ships. You guys know me. I try to give us a theme for the year, just something that we can kind of rally around, think about, and I came up with Burn the Ships. So it is a song for what it's worth. Sharon knew that, so it is a very it is a song out there that maybe I'll send out at some point. But really, Burn the Ships comes down to commitment. Okay, and for historical context, this is what I have in the packet here. So some really famous stories when the Vikings would go and take new land. Right, everybody knows the Vikings, right? And they would go and conquer new land. The first thing they would do when they would get to that land is they would park the ships offshore and they would burn the ships. Why'd they do that?
Can't go back.
Can't go back, right? Now, I kind of thought about this. Think about this for a second. You want to think of imagery, right? Think about like a ship burning in the background with all these gnarly Vikings charging at you, and that's like the first thing you see in the morning. That's a pretty good like first attack, frankly, right? Like if you think about the ship burning in the background, the Vikings charging at you and all that. So, you know, that to me was something that as I was thinking about it and thinking about this year, you know, what's the application for us, right? So we're all in with Liberty, and I know we've had bumps and challenges, right? No doubt. We had bumps and challenges before Liberty. We're gonna have bumps and challenges after. But that's one thing to think about. And then I really just encourage you guys, and I even want to maybe just take a minute, is, you know, I know we've kind of talked about goals, and there certainly can be a tie between goals and commitment, but what's something you want to commit to, right? What's something that you think, hey, this is something that I haven't gone all in with, and that I know I need to, right? There's certainly business applications here, right? There's sales applications, service. There's personal applications as well. And so, you know, as I think through where we're at as a team and a company and growing, and yes, now the whole Liberty thing, which is, you know, gives us more resources and allows us to play in some bigger fields that we haven't as well. There's going to be different levels of commitment, you know, really for all of us and opportunities to grow. You put it out there sort of in the ecosystem, right? It's amazing how that happens. Your brain starts working on it. Your subconscious mind starts working on it. It's like, okay, how can you be a big sister? And I think that's great. That's a great example. And a lot of this stuff doesn't just have to be strategic related. And you've heard me say this before. I know the more we grow outside of the office, all of us, outside personally, health, all the different areas that aren't just business related, it will also help you in your business. It will also help you in your career, right? So there's definitely a tie between just professional development, growth and development. Like what we're doing now is practice. Like this is blocking and tackling. This is helping prepare so that you can be a better agent, risk management advisor, account manager, commercial lines manager, boyfriend, wife, friend, fiance, whatever it is, right? What you tell yourself matters. We've talked before, you know, it's like catch your thoughts, right? And I would even say we all think these things before we speak these things. So this is a really good, and I want to share this. This is from the Old Testament, but I think it's so timely. It says, forget what happened before, don't think about the past, look at the new thing that I'm going to do, okay? Then it even goes and it says, I will make a road in the desert and rivers in the dry land. That's from the book of Isaiah. I love that though. It's like, I will make a river in the dry land, right? So, and again, obviously with the new year and we're just off that, it's a great time to kind of reset, refocus, rethink. I'd encourage us all that, you know, the timing right now is where a lot of us are in this mindset of restart, refresh, New Year's goals, New Year's resolutions, whatever you want to say it. What can you do today, now, this week, this month that helps set you up for April, that helps set you up for July, that helps set you up for September, for the rest of the year, to try and keep some of that momentum going? So the other thing I wanted to say with the Burn the Ships I thought was good is as I started thinking about, you know, you think about this two ways, right? So one, kind of the Burn the Ships, we're talking about this level of all-in commitment. And there's something incredible that happens when you say that, right? It's like, I want to be a big sister. I want to write, you know, $30,000 a month, whatever it is. Again, there's a tie between commitment and goals, clearly. There's also a part here about what do you need to let go of, okay? So there's another part here to think through, okay, of what could be holding me back, right? And these two things are very, very interlinked, I feel like, right? So there's a part that says, hey, I need to commit to X, But there's a part that you may have to, quote unquote, burn a ship, that you need to let go of something. That could be an old pattern, an old thought process. Again, we've kind of talked on it a little bit here, right? If I'm setting myself and saying, I'm so X, not good enough, not smart enough, not tall enough, short enough, big enough, small, all these different things, I guarantee you, and again, this is not group therapy, although sometimes it is group therapy, Mike, okay? But I guarantee you, if we went around and asked all of us, what is a lie that you've told yourself for a long time, okay? There's something there for all of us. That's human nature. So I would just encourage you, and some of this stuff is just trying to get you guys thinking and going for the year, right? Not saying doing it right now, but I would encourage you over the weekend, over the rest of the next few weeks even, like, what's a ship I have to burn? In a good way to say, I need to let that go. I need to let that old pattern go, right? And again, I'll just kind of share in a way right now, and Tony kind of touched on it in a way, and I love what I do. I love this business. I love this agency, and I'm very who I am. Okay, we all are, but balance, I guess, is where I'm trying to go with it. It's like, where am I at with balance? Do I have enough balance in my life? Do I have enough margin in my life? Okay, and if I'm being honest, I don't. And if I'm being honest, I've probably told myself for a long time, you have to do X, Y, and Z so that you're approved, liked, loved, whatever it may be, right? And some of that stuff's not bad in a way. Like if we just say, hey, my role right now in part is as a husband is a provider, right? Like, I wouldn't be a great guy if I just sat around all day eating donuts and watching TV. Do you follow me? But anything can go too far, right? You're never going to look back on our life, any of us, and say, at the end of your life, I wish I worked more. I'm promising you that, all of us, right? So, and I'm just trying to share and be a little vulnerable and using that as an example of like, what dynamics are you dealing with in your own life, in your own world, in your own realm, in your own little fiefdom at Strategic Insurance and also outside of it, that, again, you may need to burn a ship and let it go, right? And maybe that even frees you up to do more in less time. Maybe the dynamic needs to be, I can still accomplish and do more, but have more time in my life and more margin in my life, instead of saying, well, Doug always runs late. Why are you laughing, by the way?
Because we accept and love that.
Because, yeah, exactly. But if I say that to myself, Doug always runs late, it's just part of who Doug is. It's the Seinfeld where he's talking in the third person, Jimmy plays basketball. Anyway, so if I say that, I'm automatically starting to plant that seed and starting to build that into sort of the ecosystem of life, right? As opposed to, Doug has margin in his life and is on time, right? Again, just food for thought for you guys for this year. So, it says, identify the ships you need to burn. Again, some of this is in your notes here. What are your ships? What are you afraid to let go of? What keeps you looking back? Do you need to step into a new day? Are you leaving an option for retreat in any area of your life, right? So these kind of, I would say these are like two sides to the door. There's this one side of commitment and that you're going all in on something, and then there's also another side of what do I need to let go of? And by the way, they may be linked, and by the way, they may be totally separate. Do you follow me? Okay? So I'd really want you to think about that. And then, in terms of thinking of kind of burning the ships, having that commitment and moving forward is, what's one thing or one action you can do to start towards that step, right? So it may be you shared. It may be later today you go and email Big Brother, Big Sister. And you go on the website and say, I'm interested, right? It may be, again, if we're saying like health related and you're like, I want to exercise more, you're like, I'm going to go for a walk today. I would encourage us all that if there's something that, as we're kind of, talking through this and I'm sharing with you guys that's maybe in your spirit, if you will, you're like, yeah, there's something. I know there's something I want to commit to. I want to do more. It's like, what's one action, like a tangible action that you could do that moves you in that direction, right? So I'd really encourage you guys on that, okay? I thought this was cool, and I'll kind of end the burn the ship segment with this. So, and again, I thought this was interesting, and it sort of goes into the whole, what you start to focus on and how your mind will subconsciously start working on goals. We've talked about this before, right? Like your brain is an incredible machine. There's still, to this day, there is no greater computer than the human mind, which is just amazing. Like, again, an evidence to me of just the incredible design that God has. But as I was preparing for Burn the Ships this week, Napoleon Hill, who you guys know, I love Napoleon Hill, he had a thought of the day about Burn the Ships. Okay. Which I thought, again, I've been like reading Napoleon Hill little thought of the day for I don't know how many years, and it's like, okay. So this says, victory is always possible for the person who refuses to stop fighting. It says, Julius Caesar had long wished to capture Britain. He sailed to the British Isles, quietly unloaded his troops and supplies, and gave the order to burn the ships. He then called all of his men together and said, now it is win or perish. We have no choice. With that single order, he guaranteed the success of his campaign. He knew that people who have no other alternative will accept no other option other than to win. It says, if you find yourself in a situation where victory seems impossible, you may benefit your cause by developing an alternate course of action. If your objective won't yield to a full frontal assault, try an oblique approach. There are a few problems in life that are impossible to solve. There are very few problems in life that are impossible to solve, and few obstacles that will not eventually give way to a determined, motivated person with a plan that is flexible enough to cope with a changing situation. So again, a lot there, but I've heard of Julius Caesar before. I never knew this. He was trying to capture Britain for years, and it was when he finally sailed up, burned the ships, and said, look, we have no choice but to win. And again, what does that look like in your world, in your life? That would be something to think about. So for burn the ship. So I think what I want to do, because we all went through a little bit of goals. We've talked about that a fair amount. I want to spend a little time on the predictive index for you guys. And then I would also encourage you and say, with regards to your goals, whatever you started to put down, and I know I encourage you guys to come up with 3 clear goals, okay? That's what I had emailed out before the meeting. I would encourage you guys this week to write down, I would pick 1. I'm trying to really, really, really make this straightforward and simple. I would say, of the 3 goals you picked, okay, and if you did that ahead of time and you've got 3 clear goals in your mind, awesome. If you haven't, or you just came up with that this morning, I would pick 1 goal, okay, that you really want to accomplish this year, and take some time to write a letter to yourself. We used to do this in the past. Write a letter to yourself a year from now. So you date that letter 1/7/2024, okay? And you write a letter to yourself as if the goal happened. And I would really spend a little time to what I would say to walk in that, to visualize that, to say, like, how do you feel that the goal has happened now, right? And I'm not saying this has to be all 3. Again, and if you want to make it all 3, you certainly can, okay? I mean, we used to have in meetings in the past where we'd write these out, we'd share them, we'd read them, people would cry, all that stuff. It was, like a mini Tony Robbins, firewalk next year, pyrotechnics mic next year. So, but I'd really encourage you on that. I'd pick 1, and it doesn't have to be super long. And I would encourage you, for those of you that actually like pen and paper, I think there's something incredibly powerful to actually get like a real pen with a real paper and write it, okay? Much more so than digitally. For those of you that are digital, I get that. I would say write it somewhere that maybe you could print it easily, okay? And you have it someplace you can look at regularly, okay? You guys have heard this before, like my goals sit where my toothbrush and toothpaste are, that I can look at pretty frequently, okay? And I would also encourage, because again, I get both sides of the digital and the non-digital, I would encourage you, if you're a person, you write it on the pen and paper, I would also type it and put it in your phone. You all have notes on your phone. Every one of us here has a smartphone. You have some sort of note system on your phone. You could write that goal out. You could write out as it happened, that future, what that looks like, the whole deal, and then have it someplace that you could do. And then I would like pin it to the top of those notes. Like I'm an iPhone guy. I have my, my notes. You can pin notes to the top. I did stop for a while, but there was a good intention behind it, but it made my life harder. So anyway, I'd really encourage you on that. And again, here's what I would say. Like if you want for either accountability or for encouragement and you want to share that at any level, I'm happy to be that. I'm sure Joyce is. Just to say, hey, here's my goal, here's what I wrote, I'm kind of want to put it out there. Look, you guys know me, I'm an open book, I probably talk too much, it gets me in trouble, that's well known, okay? But one of the things why I do that is because I know when I start putting things out there, it's more likely to happen, right? There's definitely a tie. There's a tie between thinking it, writing it down, putting it out there, talking about it, dreaming about it, on and on and on. So if you want any help on that, we're happy to be a support there for you. So, cool? All right, we're just flying along here. Maverick is flying along here. All right, so we're going to jump into the predictive index. So I want to just start off with first and say, how many people absolutely hate these tests? Just be honest. Like, okay, you guys can leave now. Okay, thanks. I'm just kidding. That was just kind of a joke.
I kind of like them.
Okay. I know, there you go. So that's it. So no lunch for you. So how many people nerd out and like love these tests? Okay, how many are kind of like in the middle of the road? Yeah. Okay, so let me go around real quick. Who said they like them? Why? Why do you like the test? Like what do you like about them?
I like them because it just helps me understand some things more about myself.
Oh.
Especially when they fit. So it's
Okay.
like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. And I
Okay.
was talking with Phyllis with this yesterday, and we were even digging into more. We were looking online and Googling it and what it means and what is that. So that was pretty cool because I started reading not just the pros but also the cons and how
Okay.
to improve that.
Okay, good.
That's what I.
That's awesome. Anybody else on why you like them?
It's funny, my third interview with you, you told me I flunked the test, but I had drive.
I said, this test tells me I shouldn't hire you, but I'm going to do it anyway. And Mike didn't want to, but I did, and
It's a good thing we didn't take that test on me.
I know, I'm just kidding.
Like with these tests, I kind of float through because I don't feel like, oh, this could be a lot of answers, this could be a lot. So I just try not to overthink it,
Yes.
not think about it, and just pick an answer. And I texted you yesterday and said, oh my gosh, this is spot on.
I know.
Like I was like,
Right? Okay. Well, what do you
So I feel like I really like these because I feel like it helps me to embrace my strengths and my who I am.
Right.
And understand like who I am and how to make that better.
Yes.
Or the areas that I maybe am not so strong in, like to try to be more like those areas
Okay.
to better balance. And I mean, I've felt that way since like early in my career. I did the disc early in my career, and it was like, wow. So this is who I am. So
Right.
This is why I'm not like the top salesperson. I get it, but it's like instead of trying to be something that you're not and constantly failing, you can focus on your strengths and who you are.
Love it.
And really appreciate it.
And I'm so glad you shared that. And I want to just hit the pause for a second. So there's a lot of research out there that will say exactly what you said, like double down on your strengths and almost forget about your weaknesses altogether. I could spend my whole life trying to get better at what I suck at, and maybe go from like on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe I get from a 2 to a 4. Okay, or I could focus on what I'm really good at, what I'm passionate about, what I love, and provide great service to people, the community, on and on and on, and crush it, right? So, and again, there's a balance in all this. Like my grandmother, who lived to be 103, by the way. So for those of you like God willing, I'm gonna leave alone. Her key to life was like everything in moderation, right? So I say that to say, there's a balance on both sides here. I would also encourage us. I do like these things. You guys know that. I mean, in my time, in your time with me, we've done PXT, Omnia, Disc, and I'm probably missing a few others. So Myers-Briggs, Amy and myself were talking about this when we first met. And again, Amy's background in psychology, and she's taught on some of this stuff, is type talk for work and these different things. Our first month meeting, we're like sitting around, nerding out over some of this stuff, right? So, but I would encourage all of us that, whatever your thing came out as, while there may be a lot of that is you, and you may resonate with it, if there are things in there you're like, I don't like that, or I don't agree with it, don't let it sort of sit in your spirit too much, right? Okay? It's just one sort of snapshot look. I think if we say, why am I doing this? Why is Liberty engaging this, by the way? I mean, at a company level, they're really trying to embrace this, okay? Which I think is great, is a couple things. Is one, I think if we think very, very basically, and we say, what do we do? Like, what do we do that pays all of us? Think about this for a second. And I've encouraged you guys this before, right? We're not hammering and nailing, putting a house together, okay? We're building relationships with people, okay? We're helping them protect things that mean something to them. And that's how we earn our money, okay? If I boil a lot of that down, it's communication, right? If I can't communicate well with people, if I can't communicate well with you guys, you're not going to want to be here a lot longer. You're not going to feel engaged. You're not going to feel encouraged. You're not going to feel a lot of things. If I can't do that with my clients, whether that's from a sales perspective, like new business, tip of the spear, I got to go get new clients, new relationships, new centers of influence, or I'm managing a book of business, right? Which, by the way, is incredibly important. So again, for our service team and our account management team, and while they're not here right now, although we could have, I guess, zoomed them in, our India team, incredibly important, right? So it's communication, and then to me, this makes me think of like, well, how am I bridging some gaps, right? And for some of us that may have a little bit stronger personality than others, okay, how do we are aware of that, and how do we bridge some of these gaps? So I would say, as a very practical walk away, takeaway for you guys, I would encourage you to spend a little time and read through yours, okay? And again, you can focus and say, hey, how can I double down on my strengths? What are some areas of weakness? But maybe I'm at least aware of those weaknesses, and as I'm communicating with other people, how can I start to sense and say, oh, wait a minute, I'm sort of operating in this environment. This person may be very different than me. And oh, by the way, on this team, we have some very different personalities. Did you guys know that? Did anybody know that? And how do I bridge that gap? And then how do I also quickly identify that with a client? Some of this stuff we've talked about before, like, yes, I am, and my personality type was Maverick, right? Now all of a sudden I love Tom Cruise. I never really liked Tom Cruise, but I still don't like Tom Cruise really, but he's a good actor, I will say that. So I'm big picture, I'm vision, like this is the stuff that gets me going, like sales, leadership, motivation, marketing, all that, I can do the details when I need to, but I don't really love it. But if I'm talking to a CPA or an engineer or somebody who's like, oh my goodness, I want to see every jot, every tittle, everything, how am I bridging some of that gap? For those of you that are more engineer, smarter, detailed, and you're talking to me or people like me, I'm going to tune out real quick if you bog me down with too many details too fast. Like, forget it, I'm gone, right? And guess what? You have clients like that, okay? And then there's a whole spectrum in between. This is part of, like, frankly, I think what makes life on earth amazing. It's like the diversity that we have, the diversity we even have around this table. So on the predictive index, and I've got this in here, I wanted to kind of give a little background. I thought this was interesting. So this has been, this study has, and concepts goes back over 60 years. So this test itself is over 60 years old. There's been over 18 million assessments done, along with 500 validity studies, which is basically like these very complicated studies to say, how are we making sure that sort of like whatever the test results are showing are valid, right? It's used by companies like IBM, the Discovery Channel, DocuSign, so some pretty big companies, right? And again, I would say that all of these tests, and I've done a ton of them over the years, they all have some patterns to them, right? At some level, it's kind of like, when you walk into a room with new people, let me just do this real quick. You walk into a room with new people that you've never met before. Are you excited and want to go talk to new people, or are you like, I want to be in the corner and there's one person I know and I want to talk to them? Where do you fall on? Let's just go around real quick. Joyce, where do you fall on? You want to talk to the person you know. Amy Young, where do you fall on? Love it. Leanne, where do you fall on? You want to talk to the new people, or I want to just go to the one person I know? Okay, T?
New people.
Shelby?
I'm in between.
You'd be a good politician. Talk to everybody. JJ?
Kind of middle of the road.
Okay. Sharon? Phyllis? Wifey? Okay. And it's kind of interesting because the handful of you that are like in between, there's something probably in your personality assessment that says that. But that's sort of the classic example, right? Of, what are, kind of the drivers here. So here are the 4 drivers that they determine in here. So first one is dominance, okay? And I would also say as I was going through this even in kind of prepping for this talk yesterday, I was thinking about DISC, because we have done DISC. DISC is another popular one. DISC is driver. The D stands for driver. So D is dominance, and it basically says dominance is the drive to exert influence on people or events. It's also called A drive, right? And again, I also want to say none of this is bad or good. This is just sort of like kind of who we all are. And some of us may think, well, I'm an A, I'm better. Okay, of course you think that because you're an A. Okay? But guess what? Stuff doesn't get done without the people that are, come on in. Come on in. We got Don Rice. Don, I'm doing a talk on predictive index. Come on in, man. So, of course the A is going to think that because he's going to say, I'm better because I'm an A. But guess what? Stuff doesn't get done without the other types of personalities, right?
Can you tell us what does the A mean?
Right. So that and we basically it says like it's going to be the line in which you fall on that. So if you think of the dominance curve, if you will, we all have some level there. It's like how far along the line are you? And and it says right here. So think about this. So someone with a lower A of dominance is more collaborative, is more cooperative, is more harmony seeking, right? A team member that has a very high level of dominance is more independent, more assertive, and more self-confident, right? So again, we're not saying one is necessarily better than the other. It's just sort of really how you approach the world. The E stands for extroversion, okay? So if we kind of go along the line here, E is extroversion. It's the drive for social interaction with other people. That's called the B drive, right? We all just kind of ran around and did that real quick. And we said, hey, you kind of get to the party, are you the guy that's the life of the party, the woman that's the life of the party and wants to talk to everybody? Or are you, hey, I want to be in the corner. And I would encourage us all to think about this. Like I would say, yes, for me, I go into that party, I want to meet new people. However, I'm going to give us all a little out here. I'd encourage you to think about like, what if you're exhausted? Right? Like what if the dynamics of that day were really challenging? And I would say some people who can be exhausted are like, that gives me energy, right? That like gets me going where other people maybe not. Amy and myself have talked, Wifey and myself have talked about this quite a bit, is that a lot of this stuff, when you really study it, it talks about how do you recharge, right? So someone who quote unquote is introverted doesn't necessarily mean you're unsocial. Fair point? And I think that's an important thing to take away because again, we can get into these dynamics that's saying like, well, I'm more this or he's more that or she's more this or she's more that. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're introverted and you can't talk to anyone and you're a jerk or perceived like that. It may mean, hey, I recharge by more quiet, right? An extroverted person may be, yes, I'm exhausted, but I actually recharge by being in a room full of people and meeting new people. And even though I'm ready to collapse, my personality, I'm not saying, although I am kind of like this, okay, I'm probably a lot like this, my personality says, yes, I will get that energy from that room and keep going, right? Okay. So, and then we get into patience, the number 3 thing, yep.
Can I say something?
You should, absolutely.
So I learned about myself like through the Young Agents Council
Uh-huh.
that as much as I'm the type of person that will only speak to the person I know in the room,
Yep.
I actually enjoy meeting new people
Yes.
and mixer events,
Mhm.
was that by being at the greeting table
Mm.
and having like the sign-in sheet,
Mhm.
people would come and they would sign in, and I could see who they are, and then I could develop like a reason to go and talk to them.
Love it.
Or like, oh, Lisette, so you're on the commercial team.
Love it.
So tell me, do you know so and so over here? And it would help me to go out of my shell and go and talk to people.
Love it.
So it was like,
It helped facilitate that. And again, I would encourage any and all of us to say that even if you're the most extroverted person in the world, there can be times and moments where you could be very detailed. It may just not be your default. If you're more, I recharge by quiet and I'm a little more introverted, that doesn't mean you cannot be. There are times where you could be extroverted or you could be doing that. So the last two are patience and formality. Okay, those are kind of the C&D drive. So what I really just wanted to get into now, and by the way, we are going to be doing more training with our learning and development team on this. So we've got a woman named Lacey Armstrong who, she's the VP of Learning and Development, and she's here to help all of us with this type of stuff. So this is just to kind of wet our whistle a little bit. But what I wanted to do is, you obviously all have your own profile printed. I know I emailed it to you. You also have a link to everybody. And then I just went around and I basically put who do we have here, if you will, right? So there are 4 altruists on the team, okay? And the altruist is defined sort of as an unselfish person, a person who's very concerned and devoted to the welfare of others. They're defined as collaborative, sociable, organized, and precise. Who do we think is an altruist here, if you don't already know?
It's right there. It's right there.
Okay, so you all can read. Very good. That was just a test.
I don't need to be able to read.
I didn't tell you to go to page 4 yet. I don't even have the page number. Okay, so Amy Young, Tony, Liseth, and my wife Amy all fall into that. Okay? I thought this, again, just unpacking a little bit. It says altruists get their sense of satisfaction from being supportive. They seek harmony and are usually the first to offer a helping hand to a colleague in need. And I would say, knowing all of you very well, I think that's totally spot on. The rest of you are jerks. That was a joke, by the way.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's usually helpful because altruists are detail-oriented and precise in their work, and their follow-up is strong. Okay? Here's what I'm also going to comment too. We sort of talked about this. We talked about this spectrum, right? That we all are on at some level. We all have strengths. We all can have some weaknesses. If we look at this and we say, well, why are we doing this? How can this help? We're trying to bridge some gaps, okay? And I think another way to put that is, what are our blind spots? What's Doug's blind spot? Well, guess what? Even you altruists have blind spots. Oh, by the way, just saying, okay? So blind spots, you can sometimes be overly cautious. You can be frustrated by stagnation. You can be slower to make decisions that impact others. And you can be overly trusting, right? Just
How can that be bad?
Exactly. Okay. So that's sort of the high level and the altruists. We have 3 collaborators on the team. So JJ, Cassidy, and Shelby, okay? They can be described as cooperative, empathetic, patient, and friendly. Collaborators are warm, informal, outgoing, congenial people who get along comfortably with most people, okay? And I would say, probably very, very similar to the altruist a little bit, right? Blind spots to be aware of. Not strong at technical work, limited attention to detail, difficulty adapting to frequent change, needs reassurance. Okay? Collaborators on a team, I thought this last part was good. It says they're natural team players. They're known to be understanding, people-oriented, and persistent. They thrive in and help contribute to a culture of teamwork. Teams are often designed by default rather than intention. And again, thinking about that, they're natural team players. Okay. Then we've got 3 persuaders on the team. Craig, Kayla, and Spencer fall into the persuader sort of category, right? There you go. So it says persuaders are leaders, motivators within the organization, socially poised and extroverted. They love to make their mark and won't shy away from risk. Persuaders will rally the team around projects, confidently making decisions and delegating tasks before they move on to their next project. Okay? Artisans, and again, I'm just kind of hopping quick here, guys, for sake of time here. Artisans, we've got Leanne and Joyce. Okay? Artisans can be characterized accommodating, analytical, deliberate, anticipates problems. It says artisans are thoughtful, deliberate, and precise with an eye for managing detail work and always follow through. They're collaborative, but they also work quietly and diligently on their own. They're not self-promoters, but like recognition for their efforts. I know Leanne and Joyce extremely well. They're two of our longest team members. I don't think I could describe you much better. Frankly, ladies, yes, no, a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And we know we're like.
And again, I would encourage in thinking for all of us as we work with each other, what are the blind spots? Okay, blind spots says can be sensitive to criticism. So if I go to Joyce, I'm like, you really screwed that up, which I don't know if I've ever said that to you. Probably not going to land well. Probably not going to sit well. I would probably encourage any of us, even if you have a little thicker skin, if you will, probably not going to land well, right? May struggle to perform under pressure. I kind of disagree with that. I think you do well with that. And I know, and again, this is interesting, and we can pull reports of the dynamics between, right? Like we pulled a report of me and Joyce. We can pull reports of like, hey, how does this personality go with this personality, and what does that look like, right? It says may struggle to perform under pressure. Again, I disagree with that to an extent, but if I know someone this is a blind spot, and I'm like, here, go do this, and I'm just throwing crap at them, and I'm a salesperson, and I know that someone on my team is like this, that's probably not going to land well, right? So this to me is just the awareness, what I would say is like level of social awareness of like, hey, how am I helping interact with someone that I may know this is a weakness? Now, I can either try to really, I almost say in a bad way, like capitalize on that, make someone feel bad, and then you're just a real jerk. Or I can try and at least say, wow, how can I, maybe change a little bit of what I'm doing or my approach, okay, to help accommodate them. Uncomfortable with ambiguity, needs a plan to follow, right? Those are some of the blind spots, right? And, exactly, and I think that's totally true. Okay. Yep. Okay, so we have two operators on the team, Sharon and Thomas. Two operators. Think about this. Cooperative, pragmatic, stable, thorough. Operators are people you can count on, patient and conscientious. They're usually among the most cooperative people on the team. Operators will remain stable, thorough, and relaxed in most circumstances. Okay? I know Sharon very well, I think. This does not describe you at all. This describes you everything. So true. Okay. Think about, again, in terms of we look and we say, what are blind spots? Okay? They can be highly task-focused. And I would encourage this. It's like, you kind of have the forest from the trees, but what about the trees from the forest? Anybody? Did that land anybody? You'll get it later. Anyway, overly cautious. Uncomfortable with ambiguity, needs a plan to follow. So I'm so detailed. Great, but like, where are we going? Are we even like in the right direction? Do we have like a vision? There's a great verse in the Old Testament that says, where there's no vision, the people will perish, right? Like part of me and why I embraced and said, I think this is the right time and move for the agency. It's not just for me. By the way, I did not walk away with this tremendous payday right now. I think I shared that with you. I kind of kicked in for the greater down the road. But I feel it's the right place and right time where the business is at, where the industry is at, giving us more resources, more horsepower, more strength in numbers, more a lot of things for all of us, okay? Where I'm going with that, like to me, that's the vision. Now all the details you guys figure out, or Joyce can figure out, okay. Anyway, Maverick, that's me. I think you guys know me pretty well, but I will say like, okay, my blind spots, what are my blind spots? Technical work, limited attention to detail, delegates with loose follow-up, may appear tough-minded. Does that sound about right? Okay, yeah, okay. Here, go do this. What do you got?
I'm the only person that read the email and said, oh, we have a Maverick, that's done.
Love it. So true, right? So be kind to your Mavericks. Okay. We have a scholar on the team. I love this. This is going to be our new nickname. We have one scholar on the team, which is Phyllis. Okay? I thought this was great. Scholars are driven to desire and achieve mastery of their subjects. I thought this was also interesting because one of the things I know about Phyllis is she loves to play the piano. She spent years playing the piano. She was telling me yesterday, and I've heard it before, she studied, how many people know this, that Phyllis studied with a Juilliard teacher, caliber person. Okay? That's like, if you don't know, Juilliard's like a really famous music school. Often reserved, they tend to work independently and pursue that knowledge. Scholars value stability and consistency, analytical and discipline with exceptional follow-up skills. Blind spots can be anxious to avoid disagreements, often uncomfortable in new environments, may hesitate to act on a new idea, find it difficult to delegate. But we disagreed with that one. Okay? So here's what I would say, guys.
Why was that just jumping?
Yeah, I know, right, yeah. I mean, they're all right. Okay, so here's what I would encourage you guys to do, too. I also, and again, we're going to do more on this, like I said, with Lacey coming up. I put together that Excel, that Google Sheet, which kind of characterized us all into little buckets with just a quick summary. I would encourage you guys, as we go through the next few weeks, the next few months as a team, can you identify with your fellow teammates that you may be different than, areas where you say, I see something that I can bridge a gap on with them. I see an area where I can, what I would say is extend the olive branch, okay, if you will. If anybody's ever heard of that. That's a reference John Gad loved. But anyway, where I can kind of reach across the aisle and maybe make their life, their day a little easier. And even if it's just saying, okay, I know I'm going a million miles in a direction, and I'm constantly throwing stuff at Joyce, which I am, and we do talk a lot, okay? But it's like, what do I need to slow down on and be like, hey, have I really given her really clear instructions here? Have I taken the time to explain it? Or I just go, here, take this, in essence. And oh, by the way, and we've talked about this quite a bit, the here, take this, my visual right now, I like this, my paper, can happen with a Teams message, can happen with a text message, can happen with an email, where you have very little context, no body language, no tone, no inflection, on and on and on and on, right? Yeah, there you go. So how do I even be aware of that, right? We've talked about some of this before. And oh, by the way, the application with your clients. Yeah, what does that look like with your clients? Think about the challenges in the industry right now, the rate increases, the carriers going out of business, all of the stuff going on, right? The industry is Michigana right now. I was going to fit Michigana in this somehow, so I just did it before I wrapped up. Michigas. So, how can I do that? And then, oh, by the way, and I would encourage you to say there's a direct impact that your outside and personal life, whatever that looks like, has a direct impact on your work life. If you don't think so, you're crazy, okay? What does that look like with my wife, my fiance, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my husband, my whatever, in terms of how am I trying to bridge gaps? How am I trying to make their life a little easier, understanding them a little bit better, okay? Awesome. All right, with that, we're right at 11 o'clock. I want to just take, if it's okay, we're just going to take a quick 5-minute break. We'll do a quick 5-minute little bathroom water break, and then we're going to introduce Don.